and he's been replaced. He's been replaced by a robot version of himself called RoboBrash. And so Mango and RoboBrash are teaming up to, if you can't already tell, deal with a couple of things, such as some giant ants that are rampaging in the city. So I know that, Dave, I know you like comics.
I love comics.
How, this could be a little back and forth conversation. How did you get into comics? And tell me what you like about comics, and then I'll tell you how I got into comics.
Oh man, I mean, this is why we became friends, right? I loved reading comic strips in the newspaper when I was a kid. Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield and Peanuts and Ziggy and Hagar the Horrible. There's so many comic strips that people don't even remember anymore.
Lockhorns.
But what was great about them is there was a new one every day. So you could read a new little comic strip every day. I just became obsessed, and I started copying the characters, and I started drawing them all the time. And I feel like that's something that you and I both had in common, is that we loved drawing comic strip characters. I think the character, who was your favorite comic strip character when you were?
Well, so, you already mentioned it. My favorite character when I was a little kid from the comic strips in newspapers was Garfield. And I basically learned how to draw by copying Garfield. And when I don't know if this is true for you, you can fill me in, Dave. When I was little, in like second and third and fourth grade, when I was around elementary school, I was very sick. I had really, really bad asthma and allergies, and it kept me home from school all the time. And this was back in the day when there wasn't remote learning or anything. If you were out sick from school, you just stayed home, and then you had to catch up later. But what I did when I was sick, I didn't have a Nintendo Switch or anything like that. They didn't exist yet. So I would read, the comic strips in the newspapers like Garfield and Peanuts, and I would just copy them. I kind of learned how to read and draw by copying them. And I got really good at drawing Garfield, so that when I was healthy enough to go back to school in like third grade, I would be drawing Garfield in my notebook, and some other kids would see me drawing Garfield, and they would say, "Hey, can you draw Garfield for me?" So then I would draw Garfield for some kid, and then another kid would want Garfield, and I draw Garfield for them. And then too many kids were asking for Garfield drawings, so I finally said, "Well, give me $1 and I'll draw Garfield for you." And that was when it kind of dawned on me that, hey, I can make money by drawing cartoons. And then at the end of every day, I'd come home with like enough money to get a candy bar.
Hey John, I don't have $1, but if I put on the screen share button, would you draw Garfield? Could you draw
sure, I will draw Garfield.
You remember how to draw Garfield? I don't know if you have a copy of the book. You said you copied from the books, but I bet you probably don't need to copy anymore, right?
Yeah, I kind of more or less memorized how to draw Garfield circa 1984, I guess. He's changed over the years. His feet have gotten bigger, his legs have gotten longer.
All right, so I'm going to put on the screen share. Everybody can see what John is going to draw.
Yeah.
Hopefully on the screen.
Now, I don't really draw on computer usually. So this might be a little wonky, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, what do you usually draw with?
I like to draw, what they call traditionally, which is on, paper with pens and pencils. And a lot of artists still work like that. Many work entirely digitally, but a lot of artists like to draw on paper still. And I just like kind of the tactile feeling of it. I admittedly have not spent a lot of time trying to get good at drawing in the computer, but it's a totally different mindset for me. And I like drawing with pens primarily when I'm doing like the inking. Some artists use, I like pens that are sort of like marker pens. Some artists use pens that are like nib pens, which is like a quill nib type thing.
Like you see with a feather.
Yeah, like a long feather. Or they like to use brushes, you know, kind of like paint brushes, but they're usually very, very thin, fine paintbrushes, so that you can get fine lines. But I like, they can be kind of messy and stuff. And I just like markers.
Do you start off with a marker, or do you put something down? Like, do you jump in with a marker? That's the first way you start drawing?
I usually do pencils. And I do actually use computer in my process a lot. But what I like to do is I like to draw in pencil very, very loosely on, like, so this is a very, very wonky Garfield. But there we go. I don't know if you want to take a crack. I don't know if you want to take a crack at drawing Garfield, Dave.
I don't want to draw Garfield.
Oh wait. I forgot some details here. Hold on. He's got some.
Maybe I'll draw. I totally can't remember how to draw this teddy bear, but I remember I very much loved this teddy bear, Pookie.
Pookie, yeah.
I'll try to draw Pookie over here.
It's a ghost Pookie. You can see through him.
Pookie's like.
Yeah. So when I draw, like if I'm drawing a page of my comic, what I will do is I will draw the characters and stuff on sort of just scrap paper, like, you know, printer paper, computer paper, nothing fancy. And then what I will do is I will take those sketches and I'll scan them into the computer, and then I will sort of like use Photoshop to shrink them or you know, change details if I got anything wrong, and then I will print the sketches onto thicker paper, like artboard paper, and I'll print them very, very faintly and lightly. So I can actually kind of show you the process. So this entire stack of paper here is basically how book 4 of InvestiGators, which is Ants in Our Pants, is how it started. It starts all as, you know, pages like this. This is sort of how I
hold up the drawings like very close so people can see, and hopefully you guys can. It's really hard.
I'm trying to angle it so it gets some light.
But these drawings are much sketchier than what you would see in the books, right?
Yeah, so it starts off kind of like a sketch, and I'll write down what characters are saying. And this is sort of my writing process as well as the first stage of drawing. Like as I'm figuring out what characters are going to say and what they're going to do, I'm writing down those words along with drawing versions of the characters. But they're very, very rough and sketchy usually, because I want to try and do it as fast as I can, because it's 200 pages. It's a lot of, you know, each one of these is 2 pages. So there's literally 100 sheets of paper here that have the entire book. And after I draw each of these pages, you know, I will scan them. I'll scan them into the computer. And that's when I will be able to like cut out the characters and move them if I need to, you know, to make room for the words, or like if there's something that I drew too small, I can make it bigger, or vice versa. And then I will print those. I'll print those very, very faintly onto thicker, like you can hear it. It's like, you know, it's not quite cardboard, but it's thicker than regular paper. And so I'll print my sketches onto pages like this. And again, I will print like 2 pages on a big sheet. And the sketches will be very, very faint. Like if I hold it, you might be, probably not, like, but they include the words. Like it might be hard to see that they're actually words, but they're very, very, very faint. And the reason I do that is so that I know exactly how big I need to make all the word balloons.
Right.
And because I have the sketches underneath all very, very faint, I can just start inking right on top of it. And I don't have to really worry about erasing anything unless there was a drawing that I decided to change afterwards. I will go in and I'll draw it in pencil and then I'll ink over it and then I'll erase it. And that's pretty much my process. And then when this is done, you know, you have this page and it's all inked. Sometimes I'll write little notes. I don't know what these say, but I'll write little notes in the margins, or I'll make sound effects in the margins, and I'll cut them out and then paste them where they need to go in the computer, and that's where all the color gets added. So I do use computer for a lot of the steps, but I still like, you know, as I mentioned, when I was a little kid, I would miss school a lot and I would be homesick and I would be just drawing all day. And I'm usually like, I'd be drawing on the couch or on my bed or like watching TV. And, you know, for me, that's almost like a requirement of the creative process. I need to almost like, you know, recreate that sensation of being isolated from the world, you know, in my bed, alone drawing on some paper. And that's what gets my creativity going. How about you? Did you miss a lot of school as a kid?
I did. I maxed out all my absences every year.
Did you get, you know how in school,
I had friends who were like, I have perfect attendance. I was like, I have the opposite of that.
That's right. Yeah, I was gonna say, like in my schools, they would give like an award to the kids that never missed any school. And I was like, where's my award for missing 96 days of school? That's an accomplishment, I have to say, right?
Yeah, I guess so. It is interesting to find out how many creative people sort of can relate to this experience. So we've got some questions that I want to make sure we get to a few of them.
Sure.
Some kids asked us some great questions in advance, and I want to make sure I get to some. So you were talking about writing. What do you think? Do you have any advice to help a kid who wants to become a better writer? Like, what would you say to them? You know, as a
better writer.
A better writer. So maybe I assume that some of you guys out there in class already are writing and making your own comics. So I don't know if there's any advice that John has that become a better writer.
I'd say, like, for me, I guess one of the it's not so much that it's difficult, but it's almost like a thing that you don't necessarily think about when you're starting being a writer, is sort of like what type of writer do you want to be? Meaning, like, sort of like, why are you writing a story? Are you writing the story for yourself? Is it sort of like, you know, your soul is just telling you that there's a story that you have to get out, and then once you get it out, you're done? Or are you writing as sort of like entertainment? Like, are you writing for other people so that they will read it and then laugh at it or cry at it or whatever? And I think that's sort of like one of the things that some writers don't necessarily think about, like, what is the end goal? Because for me, when a lot of times I would, as a kid, I would have the urge to create, but not really know what to do, because I almost didn't know what I would do with it when I was done with it. It was almost like I was very sort of like, if I'm going to draw a picture, I need to know what's going to happen after I'm done with the drawing. Like, I wasn't really just drawing for the sake of drawing. I wanted to know that I was doing it for a reason. And I sort of needed that motivation to know that, oh, like, when I draw my comics, other kids look at it and they laugh at them. So there's that sort of validation that's like, oh, people are enjoying the thing that I'm making, so I will keep making it, and I have fun doing it. But if without that sort of audience, a lot of times I would just leave all my stories and stuff in my head. Like they were definitely there, but I didn't really have any motivation to get them out if there wasn't someone that was going to read them or look at them. And then I had to combine that with the fear of people not liking what I was writing or drawing. And that's like the other end of the spectrum in that terms, is like you have to not be afraid of people reading your stuff and having critiques of it. If you want to be a writer and you want people to read your stuff, then you kind of have to be prepared for people to say, oh, I think it would be funnier if you did this. Or some people might like it and some people might not like it. And you can just ignore the people that don't like it and focus on the people that do like it, and make things for them. So those are like two of the things I think starting out. And I'd say the third thing that I really didn't think about as a kid is that when I was a kid and I was drawing comics and I would be drawing pictures and writing words of these characters to like tell jokes or whatever, even when I was making that, I didn't think of myself as a writer. I was like, I'm an artist because I'm drawing something, even if there are little words in it. And even if it's telling a story, I just thought of myself as an artist. And even now I think of myself primarily as an artist, and a storyteller, but like the writer part is still sort of almost like, I don't even think of myself necessarily as a writer, just because I'm like, the writing is just the thing I have to do to get to the part where I'm doing the drawing. But like, I think the thing to learn there is that there are a lot of ways to be a writer. Like you don't just have to focus on words and to be a writer. You can come up with pictures that tell a story, and that makes you a writer by way of telling a story. You're constructing a story for someone. So like there are many ways to become a writer, using your creative energy.
Yeah, the way you said that makes me think that something about the word writer sounds very serious, and that like maybe sometimes we can't imagine like, oh, well, that's a serious thing, or being a writer is such a serious thing. Whereas cartooning and making comics seems sort of fun and like a little bit more carefree, and it's not like you don't have to be perfect, right? Like you could just sort of like, I'm just doing this for fun. It's making cartoons and comics. But once you start thinking about yourself as a writer, I think we become more self-conscious about like, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I think in many ways being a writer, it can be a lot harder to understand, as a creator yourself. It can be a lot harder to see how you're growing or changing or improving as a writer, because so much of it is in your head and just in words that you can hit the delete key and change, and then there's no sort of record of what you wrote before, because you're changing it as you go. So you're writing a story, you come up with an idea, you write it down, you maybe type it on the computer, and then you're like, oh no, I want to do something else. You delete that idea and come up with a new idea. And then you no longer see your previous writing. It's almost like it's constantly changing and evolving, which makes it harder to notice. Whereas as an artist, you can see your growth a lot more, because even though you can erase things on a page, I mean, really you're not going to draw something and then spend all day erasing it. You're going to draw something, and then if you don't like it, you're going to get a new sheet of paper and start over, right? And then you can put all that stuff together and you can see how you grew as an artist. And I think in some ways that makes writing more daunting, because it's harder. It's really harder to see your progression as a writer.
It's deep. Well, speaking of drawing, let's get some more drawing, because I want to see.
Okay.
I'm sure the kids would love to see some more drawing.
So I would love to see you draw one of your favorite characters from Astronaut Academy.
Well, okay. Well, but only if you'll draw one of your favorite characters from.
I will. We can have them
We can
interact with each
hang
other.
out. So, well, I'm going to draw perhaps what is the easiest character in the Astronaut Academy series is a character named Doug Hero, who is a kid who likes to wear his space helmet and uniform all the time. And what I love about drawing him is that it's basically, he's just like made up of these like little sort of shapes. So if you can draw
A lot of
ovals
circles.
and circles, you can pretty much draw this character because you really
Well,
can see his face. He's kind of just like hidden behind a mask like that. But I'll have him floating in space.
well, this is appropriate because in InvestiGators Ants in Our Pants,
Oh yeah.
there is a part where the alligators, who, they're secret agents, so they go undercover in different assignments and whatnot. There is a part where they are wearing space suits.
That's right.
So I am going to draw one of the gators in a spacesuit. Let's see if I can.
Go to a space-themed amusement park, don't they?
Spoilers. Yes, they do. Even though I showed a page of art showing a amusement park, and that is a space amusement park. So this is Mango. And you can tell it's Mango because he has a slightly curved snout.
Oh yeah, he's so cute.
I'm gonna add some glare. That's glare for the glass.
Speaking of erasing, I'm gonna erase these eyeballs so that he looks a little bit more like he's actually looking at. Mango.
It's so wonky drawing on computer. Okay, there we go. Little space gear. Everything the gators wear are basically vests. So that's why they have, here's like a little trick for drawing a vest. I'm gonna draw it over in the corner here. If you want to draw a vest on a character, you start with the big letter M, like that. And then at the bottom, you put a smaller W. And then you put some buttons. And there we go, there's a vest. Okay, now Mango needs legs. These are very wrinkly legs.
He's been out in space for too long. If you stay in space for too long, you get all wrinkly.
Yeah,
like
being in the pool too long. And he needs some ridges. There we go. And now they are in space.
Space friends. Oh. Let's see if we get to. Hey, John, did you go to college?
I did go to college. Yeah. So
I'm gonna ask. Can you draw some of the giant ants? I think everybody loves to see giant ants.
Draw some ants. Okay. I'll see if I can draw some ants and talk at the same time. Okay. The ants are actually relatively easy to draw because they're mostly circles. But yes, I did go to college. So as mentioned, I liked to draw a lot when I was a kid, and I kind of knew early on that I wanted to, be a cartoonist, draw comics and whatnot. Be some sort of artist as a career. So when I was in high school, I was looking at schools, colleges, and there's one, I'm from New York, and there's one in New York City called School of Visual Arts that teaches all sorts of different art disciplines. So there could be sculpture or photography or filmmaking or graphic design, painting, cartooning, all sorts of art you could learn how to do at School of Visual Arts, or SVA as it's called. So that's where I went. I went to SVA, and I majored in graphic design, which is a specific type of like art career path. I'd say, where you would like design logos or layouts for magazines, as well as other sorts of art related things that are more a design sort of stuff. But I did take some extra courses in doing comic books, and because I still really liked comics. And while I was there, after my freshman year in college, over the summer, I met this other kid at a comic convention, and discovered that he had a very similar origin story to me, and that he liked making comics for kids, and he would photocopy his comics and sell them to kids at his school. And I was like, hey, I did the same thing. We should be friends and get some KFC and some Pizza Hut and go to Action Park. And it turned out that kid was Dave Roman.
Hey, spoiler, that was me. I was like, I want to meet that kid. Oh wait, that's me. So, hey John, do you have any pets?
I do not have any pets, unfortunately. I do like dogs and I like cats. I grew up with dogs, but I don't. My landlord in my apartment does not allow pets. I imagine I could probably get away with a goldfish if I wanted a goldfish, but so I don't currently have any pets. I am allergic to both dogs and cats, but certain types of dogs and cats. Like there are some breeds that I'm not allergic to. So someday maybe I would love to have a pet again. Oh, look, a giant goldfish.
Trying to see what other questions we did not get to. Oh, nice little hook there. I feel like we need to see you draw one of the. We saw Mango in a space uniform, but let's maybe get like a classic. Oh no, actually, can you draw RoboBrash from the new book?
Oh, sure. I'll draw RoboBrash.
Since he's the newest character.
That's right. RoboBrash is basically the newest character. And he looks very much like regular Brash, except he's robotified. So he has some robot elements, and he's made out of metal. He's got these squared or rectangular eyes. And teeth. He has square nostrils. That's how you can tell something's a robot, and there are a lot of squares instead of circles.
Yeah, less squishy, more shiny.
That's right. More hard angles means metal. And this RoboBrash is going to have shorter legs because I ran out of room. This is one of the things. See, on computer, I don't know how to. I have not learned my lesson, but on paper, I know I learned my lesson early on as a kid to always make sure to leave enough room for the whole character that you're drawing. It takes a while to figure that out, just how big a drawing is going to be, but eventually you get the hang of it. And because he's a robot, he has like, metal joints. So these are where his knees are. This arm is a little thin, but that whole thing is his arm. And then he has an arm here. And a bit of his hand there. And then there's the joint. And RoboBrash usually does not wear a vest because, you know, the vests in Investigators, as I said, they're very exciting spy technology. So they have all these sorts of gadgets that can pop out. You know, it uses nanotechnology to make, you know, like a screwdriver or a magnifying glass or whatever. But RoboBrash, because he's a robot, he has these drawers on like shelves on his belly. You know, this is glare from the sun. There's the sun. You know, these compartments open up. You know, they slide out like a dresser drawer, and the gadgets can pop out from there. So he doesn't need to wear a vest the same way that Mango does when they're undercover. Who are you drawing, Dave?
So I'm drawing Cybert, which is kind of like the closest thing to RoboBrash in the Astronaut Academy series. He is a robot. So there's two friends, Hakata and Gadget builds a robot clone of Hakata. So make up for the fact that Hakata goes away to school and kind of leaves him with a lot of free time in his hands. So he builds a robot clone to hang out with. But that robot clone becomes evil, which is often a problem with robots. You got to worry
That's
about
true.
You got to worry about people reprogramming them and turning your robots evil.
Okay, so let's see if we can power through the rest of our questions that we have for kids. Right. And like, where do
okay, why alligators?
Why alligators? So originally, when the first idea, or when I was coming up with ideas for Investigators, before I knew what I was going to do, there was an old idea that actually you and I had called Animal Investigators. And the idea that was that it was basically about these kids that would go undercover as different animals to solve crimes in the animal world. So like if there was like a hippo who was missing, you know, its teddy bear, the kids would go undercover as hippos to find who stole the teddy bear. And we never did anything with that idea, but you know, I looked at that and I thought, well, that might be a little too high concept. I'd like something where I don't have to draw different characters every single time. And I was reminded of the joke, what do you call an alligator that solves crimes? An investigator. And I thought that'd be perfect. You know, I could do a play on that joke and make all different sorts of stories. So that's basically how I settled on alligators. And they're fun to draw, and where the basic idea came from.
How long does it take you to make a book?
So I usually, most books of the Investigator series, it's not so much how long they take me as so much as how much time I'm given to make them, which is because each book comes out twice a year. Like the series comes out twice a year. Like there's one in the fall and one in the spring. I only have 6 months to do each book. So that usually equals about 2 months to do the writing and then 4 months to do all the art, which isn't, you know, 4 months to draw 200 pages. It's not a lot of time, but it's doable.
Yeah,
how long does it take you to make a book?
It takes me much longer, John. I think it takes me 2 years to make a book.
Yeah.
If I'm being really
yeah. But, I mean, honestly, there should be more time to make a book realistically. Like it's a hard schedule to keep. Yeah. I haven't had anywhere to go lately, so I've had plenty of time to make the books at least.
Yeah. Going outside definitely eats into your productivity. I've So John, what did you have a favorite book when you were growing up?
You know, it's funny. I had this book that I wouldn't necessarily say is a favorite book, but is one that sort of inspired me in a backwards sort of way, called The Giant Jam Sandwich by John Vernon Lord, I think is the illustrator slash writer. I think it was based on a story, or he co-wrote the story with someone else. And the story was about this like sleepy English town that had a wasp problem. And to solve the wasp problem, they built a giant oven, a giant brick oven, to bake a slight, a loaf of bread that was like the size of a warehouse, and then make a giant jam sandwich that would attract all the wasps, like hundreds of wasps. And then they would close the sandwich and then they flew it over the ocean or something. And the thing about this book, like it's from maybe the 60s or something like that. So when I was a little kid, I'm looking at it and it's drawn in this very, very bizarre sort of style. It's almost, I'd say the characters are almost kind of grotesque. They're all wearing like very, very bizarre 60s fashion clothing, and it's almost like the Beatles' Yellow Submarine sort of drawing. It's not they're not necessarily cute characters. And so as a kid, I would look at this and like I loved the story, but something about the art sort of terrified me. And it would just stick in my head, because as this tiny little kid, I'd be like, if I was making this story, I would draw the characters cuter, nicer looking. And the wasps were drawn realistically. So they were very, very sort of scary looking, because they were very realistic looking wasps.
That sounds awesome. I want to read that. That sounds very like Roald Dahl, James and the Giant Peach-esque.
Yeah.
Hey John, when we were talking about Garfield and reading Garfield, do you remember U.S. Acres?
I do remember U.S. Acres. I don't think I
handy in my book collection here.
Yeah, I don't think I had any of the U.S. Acres books. I remember the cartoon. But yeah, I do remember the characters. I like to draw some of them every night. I remember drawing like the pig and Sheldon the egg.
Yeah, they're pretty great characters actually.
Yeah.
And then I also have this book from my childhood handy called Spooky Tricks. That was basically pranks that you can pull on your friends that were perfect during Halloween time. It was like really, I just really like the illustrations in there. They're just like really simple line drawings with flat colors.
Nice.
And all I remember is that, there's a lot of tricks about dismembered fingers and removing body parts and tricking people into convincing your friends that you've like lost body parts.
Well, it's appropriate for this season.
Yes, exactly. Perfect for spooky season.
Yes. And speaking of which, I think we are probably out of time at this point.
Yep. Here we are.
Hello. Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. That was really fun. Thank you guys both for coming to see us. That was really interesting. I was really glad to see that you guys are like such good friends already. I think that brought like a really fun time to it. Yeah. You joke, but that happens. Well, thank you guys for being here again. Everybody who tuned in today, thank you so much for coming. Thank you to all the classes who tuned in. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day at school. And please don't forget to go check out the new Investigators book, Ants in Our Pants, at Square Books Junior, and check out Astronaut Academy and check out the rest of the Investigators next when you come by as well. We have those at our store. You can also find them online. So whatever we can do to help you. I'm actually quite certain that you have some of them in your library also. And if you are missing any, we'll go ahead and remedy that as soon as we can. So thank you everybody for being here. Say goodbye to our lovely friends who tuned in. Bye, Dave. Bye, John. Thank y'all for coming.
Thanks for having us.
We hope to see y'all again one day. Maybe even in the flesh. Well, who knows? But in any case, everybody have a great day.
Bye.